all leaders, at the end of the day, they must lead with empathy, compassion, and kindness. That you start there and everything comes. And that's for the leaders to lead rest of it. Because like I said, life is not about sticks and carrots.
Welcome to Product Side Stories, the podcast where we reveal the very real and raw lessons learned from product leaders and thinkers all over the world. I'm your host, Rina Lexin, CEO of Product Side. Let's dive into today's episode. Today, I am joined by Aruna Adhikari, a senior product leader who has worked at Altisource and McGraw-Hill and now is the head of product for IQVIA. And Aruna, I would be remiss if I did not congratulate you on being selected for Pharma Voice 100, which is an extremely prestigious award recognizing influential leaders in the life sciences industry. Congratulations. Seriously, that is amazing.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here, Rina. I love your podcast series and how you present the leaders like myself in these sessions to share the knowledge and experience with the emerging leaders. So it's really fantastic to be here. This is my favorite thing to do, and overall, I'm just really excited to be here.
Great, Aruna. I have to ask, were you aware that you were nominated, or did it come as a total shock?
IQVIA is a very large company, and sometimes a lot of people do get nominated, and particularly in Pharma Voice, like millions of people work in this industry, and I assumed, hundreds of thousands of people got also nominated. And when it was told to me in April, I felt like, okay, it's not a big deal. I probably won't get it, is what was my natural thought. And right around July, when I received the note, it came really by surprise as a recognition. I had to go ask it, is this real? And I mean, most of all, it's really I feel really honored to be alongside with the other 100 people who have spent a lot of time and effort making this industry, the life science industry, a successful one. And I probably felt what I felt because I had only been in this industry for 6.5 years, but it's also a testament that this industry will look through everybody who's presenting themselves and focusing themselves on betterment of the life science industry as well. So maybe that was a really nice surprise and validation accordingly.
Well, Aruna, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, at Product Side, we also love to recognize product leaders because we know leadership, well, first of all, product management is hard. And then product leadership is, I would say, even harder. And so I know at Product Side, we also recognized you as one of the trailblazing women leaders in product management. So congratulations and definitely well-deserved. So we're here today because at Product Side, we love to share stories. It's really helpful for other product leaders to just understand, one, they're not alone in their challenges, and also to learn how other people overcome different situations. So I'd love to always start by asking you to share a bit about your story and how you got into product management.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of product managers who got into the product management will say it's a serendipity. And I think my story is not all that different as well. When I started as an electrical engineering intern, quickly I learned that I wanted to be in a more of a, not necessarily build a car, but think about a design of the car that needs to be built kind of mentality. It was really easy for me as I was doing my internship to recognize that. And I wanted to practice that. And I took a chance, although I was in electrical engineering major. I came along with something on business analysis side. There was a small company and I was able to get that experience on my belt as well. I got an experience as a project manager, project management side of things, that not just think about what is it that you're building, when is it that needs to come out, and how that makes that impactful. And of all, I think when I started at Cengage right around 2007, that's when the product management career really began. And that career, I started as a business analyst, but my manager, I think I was always buttoned up in regards to what needed to be done. I was always thinking ahead. And every time I would go to a meeting, I would have it all settled and set up in the nice way. There was a need for a product manager, and my manager thought I would best be suited on that. I didn't trust myself to be that at that time, but he said, "You go on, you can be that," and I see all the characteristics of a really good product manager in you, and I took that head on. And when I did, the great thing that these guys did, they allowed me to run a very big project, and I didn't do so well on that. And I didn't follow the framework. Maybe I knew less on the framework as well at that time. And I counted on my gut a lot and my subject matter expertise. And that was a testament to me, is that subject matter expertise and gut feeling are not the only answers for that. And you really do need to embrace solid frameworks. So that early mistake really taught me the resilience on what product management is. The good news is these guys didn't give up on me at that time. So I am forever grateful for that. And then I got another project that was equally important project. But by this time, I was aware. I had made a mistake, and now I'm aware what could go. So process, framework, iterative product development context became a second nature on that. I also learned how to work with people. It's not just you are the smartest person in the room, how you are working with everybody else to bring that vision to life. I think I learned that a lot by failing once. And I think that product, that the second product that I worked on, is still in the market, still doing great, became a primary initiative, a foundational initiative for a major initiative that the company is leading right at this moment as well. And this thing, what I will say to the product managers is, I think it's very important to value the framework over and processes. We need to adapt and learn continuously in our process. It's not just about what we know. And a lot of times subject matter expertise gets really confused with product management. I don't think that's what it is. Otherwise, my first project that I just talked about would have been massively successful because I knew it all. And it's very important to do a holistic thinking. Not just what's in front of us, but do a holistic thinking overall.
So I'll dive into holistic thinking, but I do want to, I think, highlight the point you're making right now around one is the importance of frameworks and process.
Yes.
I will tell you just proprietary data point, when we conduct our global skills benchmark, we try to find, what are some things that are correlated to higher skills, and higher skills are obviously correlated to better results.
That's right.
And we find that it's across the board. People who rate really highly on product process also end up rating higher on other product management skills. And I think it goes to what you're saying right now of the learning, the repeatability of certain frameworks. Like they're not the end all, but they are super helpul in terms of just applying product thinking. So, okay. So you mentioned holistic thinking. You have to take it. Because I want to dive into that a little bit. What do you mean holistic? Like that's a huge word. So can you elaborate a little bit on it?
Yeah, I think the holistic would mean in this context that we, as a product manager, we are not the know-it-all person. Sometimes we think we are. but we're not. And we need to know how to use our resources around us. And that could be, I call that a founder mindset. One could call it a CEO of the product as well. If I always say this to my team is that if you were the founder of a product, this was your thing, what would you do? What kind of decisions would you make? And why would you make that decisions? If that was your $2 million, would you make the decisions that you're making today? Right. And I think that's also, we'll talk about the empathy aspect. That's an empathy also need to be created. So holistic thinking comes from, one, I know the framework. What is the framework and what should it be? And how do I iterate on that to perfect that skill set? That's the framework aspect of it. Two, it's the technical skills as well. You're dealing with engineers every day. What you build, what you create has a lot to do with what architecture that there is for that to be successful. Did you consider that? And then now let's think about things as a financial person and the return on investment. It's not the best product. It's the best problem that you're solving. Are we doing that? Then let's be the salesperson for a second and say, we just did this. Can this salesperson actually talk to a potential buyer and sell this? Or is this just a nice to have thing that I just did? What does that really mean? Did it just have a value? And then now market. What is the trend? How is it going? The thing that we are building, is it like 5% of the market, potential to be a 95% of the market? Or is it you are already at 95% of the market and then you are just trying to solve the next 5% of the market? That matters. So how do you understand the market? How do you deal with it financially? How do you work with your engineers? How do you then be able to tell a story to your sales and then align your marketing? It's a big job. And thinking about this, a lot of people would say it's, you don't have to do this. I actually don't like that kind of thinking. I say, I don't care what level you are as a product manager. So if you didn't do that, first, you're stopping your growth. Second, you shouldn't rely on everybody else to tell you what to do all the time. And if you created that mindset from day one and you knew that, I think you will be in a much better place overall. And I think that was it for me. I never thought of a business as what's in it for Aruna. It was never that. It was always about, will I actually solve the problem and will it actually create a return on investment? Am I worthwhile for this company to pay what they needed to pay me? And when you have that thinking, the way you approach a problem and a solution, it becomes really different. So I call that a holistic mindset.
I like it. And I think it is I can call it apolitical, because what you're talking about here essentially is the product manager has to come from the perspective of not what's good for me, not what's good for Aruna, but what's good for the business. And that requires that holistic approach, which I fully agree with. Now, I feel like I ask this question a lot, but I'm always interested in hearing the answers. It's that one of the top problems or challenges, rather, for product management is the cross-functional team collaboration. And I think part of the challenge comes from the long-term versus a short-term. The people you just mentioned, and the most common one that has a short-term outcome, but really I would say all of them do, support, marketing, and sales, is that, sales compensation tied to what can I sell now versus company future is tied to what is the product manager making a decision about today. So it's that product manager have to have a long-term vision, whereas that comes in conflict with some of the potential short-term needs of the other people in the business. So how have you navigated this tension and aligned stakeholders around the long-term objectives?
I think This one, every single product management must master. I will start with saying, let go of your ego, have a humility. Don't try to just win on for you. Try to win for the product and try to win for the um, company. I think that's the first thing. While that is true, way back when is I was in my very speedy growth on product management skill sets. I came across empty chair mindset. What that really means is that if you're in a room and you had a stakeholder, and may that be the customer, may that be the executive, may that be the salesperson, how would you explain what you're doing? How would you explain what's coming out? How would you say the solution to the problem that you're trying to solve? If you had that, your narrative perhaps would change and you will probably reframe the conversation a little bit differently, depending on thinking about that end user, where what is a win for them. Then at the same time, them becoming your evangelist, not necessarily you are the evangelist all the time for things. So this empty chair analogy, if we were to implement it, it becomes less about the feature wars, more about the collective win and the decisions that needs to be made for customer centricity becomes very keen. The other thing is that, again, it has no barrier on what level you are, whether you are a product manager, whether you are a senior product manager, whether you are a director of product management, or you are a head of product management. You gotta have two pockets in your you got to put your two hands in your pockets. It's not just the current strategy. What are you doing today and tomorrow and 2 weeks from today? It's about the future. So you got to have that mindset to constantly think about today, a month versus 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and also the 24 months. The way you would approach a problem for a very short term gain, a quick wins, would be much different than that 2 years, 3 years strategy, which is based on a lot of market insight. And how will you tell this story for somebody to be convinced on that? That's when you apply the empty chair analogy, assuming you know how to do that. So it's all about storytelling for that other person to create an empathy for you. And then, therefore, they become the evangelist and therefore support you throughout your initiative while you practice an iterative mindset across the board.
I do like the empty chair analogy. I've heard it before. I would say it's essentially trying to make the persona in the room with you. I will
That's right.
tell you the story, Aruna. One of my favorite people, Ken Feehan, once told me when he was. I think it might have even been when he was at Apple, maybe a different company, but he used to create cardboard cutouts of his personas and bring them to the meeting. So it was like a
Exactly.
not an empty chair, but essentially the person was right there. So it's like, what are we
Yeah.
doing for Dina? What are we
Yeah,
doing for them?
absolutely.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it's very powerful.
That's right. That and we don't always have those cutouts, right? So but you always have an empty chair. So keep that empty chair. Imagine that somebody is there, sitting there, listening to you right now. And what will we say? Right now, my empty chair could be, as I am doing this podcast with me, my employees who will be listening to me, my executives, my C suites who would be listening to this, right? You can have that. Or a emerging leader who will think about what I have to say and use that to the practice. And is that really beneficial? So we also have an empty chair persona right at this moment. We are practicing at this time as well.
Yeah, I really like that. It could always be applicable. There's always someone else who is, the consumer of whatever you are doing. So you're right. And to that point, I did also want to ask you, because a lot of the people listening are product leaders.
Hmm.
And I feel like you've mentioned a few times now in our talk that some of these things that we're talking about, it doesn't matter what level you're at. You could be a product leader, you could be a product manager, you need to do it. Do you have anything that, from your experience, if think about a product manager interested in attaining a product leadership role, where they might want to spend more of their time?
I think we use term strategy very loosely, first of all. And we think that strategy can only be done by fancy titles. And I don't think that's true. And I would say learning how to work and managing up is very important. So how do you manage up, right? Confidently, without thinking somebody else knows way better than you do, and be able to voice what needs to be done. I think it's very important for product managers to understand the business deeply. Again, the founder mindset, right? That you need to understand the business, and I would prioritize that over anything. And that way you can confidently talk to anybody in the room for that matter. So it's very important. My personal experience, I came to this industry, I had no experience in life science. So like I said, like 6.5 years ago, I came from financial industry to the life science industry. I wasn't going to get any credibility here. I didn't matter how much experience I had. So I had to learn the business. What did that mean? Who are our competitors? Where do we stand? Where does the market stand? What are the great things that they're building and everybody's loving? And that's not 9 to 5, you know? That's not a 9 to 5 job. And mostly that was my Saturday morning reading and Sunday morning reading, afternoon reading. But the thing is, you have to like it. And that's the trick. You have to love it. I loved it. For me, I'm such a curious human being. Learning new things was just a second nature to me, and I did that. Then I would say the second aspect, so that goes into understanding the business very deeply. The second thing that I would call it is leveraging the authority strategically. A lot of authority come with a lot of ego as well. So who has the big ego? But you need them. You need them to agree with you. You need them to align with you. And how do you play into it? Use that empty chair analogy and what's in it for them to win. What does that look like? How will you provide the confidence on what the vision looks like in a very simple language, and then what the outcome looks like, and what will you do for that? Are you able to position that with your business knowledge strategically? And then now, can you make that authority your evangelist? So you don't actually care whether becomes your idea or not. It could become anybody's idea, and you're still okay with it. But your idea of the product came to life. The third thing I will say, which is similar to what I just said on authority leverage, is building alliance across leadership. I have made some mistakes in the past where, I would be, a leader will say, this is a lot of rambling. Get to the point. I don't have time for this. And I would dismiss myself, and I didn't want to do it again. And that didn't help me. So if we understood the wins and gains for those individuals, you can build those alliance with marketing leadership, your commercial leadership, your sales leadership. And if you have those relationships, that's when you can win. Unfortunately, this is not a job you can win by yourself. that you have to do that. And goes back to what I just said. Mobilize these resources and engage these stakeholders. Make them work for you in a way. I mean, you're not managing anybody directly in this scenario, but you are motivating them for their win, for what you proposed and what you thought was right. And there are multiple ways to present the answer for that, right? You could go in front, example, you could go in front of a CEO, and that could be you, Rina, right? On in this, and your somebody came to you and then said, you know what? I know you have the best idea, Rina, for what's good for the company, but here's what I have observed, and I think this can get you a better result. Here's my hypothesis on this. What do you think? As opposed to, I think you're not doing things right. I think we're headed for doom and it's not going to work. As opposed to that, how about presenting it as in, I want to solve this problem with you and I want your opinion to be validated with me and we will make a collective decision. So two different approach for a very different approach, right? And a lot of times product managers, because they know a lot, they are the supreme subject matter experts. Our ego comes into the play, and we can't let that go. And until you let that go, the strategic leadership becomes almost impossible.
Aruna, I think if anyone is listening who wants to be a product leader, they need to snip what you just said in terms of what will help them on their career journey, because I think you've probably summarized it extremely well. Essentially, a product manager needs to understand the business first, and that
Yes,
actually helps them articulate the strategy because the strategy comes from the needs of the business. They need to understand authority to be able to leverage it appropriately. And
that's
they need to establish a relationship and alliances because product management is in a silo, it doesn't work. By
absolutely.
doing those three things, I think the next step really is to make business cases and get in front of senior leadership.
That's right. That's
I often hear product leaders tell me that they struggle because they feel like the leaders don't have a good strategy. And I don't always say it to them, but I always feel like if I am a leader and I don't have a good strategy, I might not be aware of it from your perspective. So I would benefit, by someone coming to me, not just with the problem, but with the proposed solution.
yes,
And I don't
absolutely.
hear a lot of people doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a skill set too, and it's a confidence that grows into that, right? So I wasn't very confident talking about the business of what needs to be done in the life science market 6 years ago, right? 6 months. So I focused on the framework. I focused on what needed to be done at that time, which was framework, governance, product management practices. That was the thing I knew, and I knew the company didn't have it, and I could go on and fix that. Product it took me a while to understand it, and then once I understood it, then I started to gain the credibility through the knowledge. Nobody just hands these things to us, and like I said, it's not a 9 to 5 job. So it's product management is simply not a 9 to 5 job, because you know I've heard from other professions, and somebody said, what would you be doing if you weren't working? And I said, but I love my job. I love solving problems. I love growing business. I just get this euphoria doing it. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And I think you need to feel that. You need to feel that. You need to go beyond the paycheck. You need to go beyond the titles. And believe that if you do the right thing, the titles and paycheck will happen. But you need to start to do the right thing to grow yourself.
I saw someone post an image or a comment that a bottle of water is worth 50 cents at the store, $2 in the vending machine, $6 on the plane. It's the same bottle of water, but the value is different depending on where it is. So if people feel like they aren't valued, maybe they're in just the wrong place. So what you're
That,
saying about you have to love it, it could be that you don't love the job, but you might also just be in the wrong industry that's not
that's
giving you
right.
that
That's
euphoria,
right.
right? You can
You got to
find it.
find it, right? You got to find that mission and purpose as well. You know, I wouldn't say when I was at a fintech I didn't have a mission and a purpose. Like I said, I personally am driven by growing the business and solving the problem for the users, no matter what the industry is. Right at this moment, life science as an industry is giving me multiple aspects of satisfaction, which is I'm solving the problem for the patients, and what better way to work for that? And it even motivates me more. Not to mention what I just said, growing the business and growing the company that comes with it. But the life science market itself does that. But look, when I was in an ed tech, I felt the same. I'm solving the problems for student to learn. That's a basic, simple phenomenon. And it could be your mission. That could be your mission to then drive you further. I think about this in two terms. I think I started to spend a lot of time lately on this part, which is goals and purpose. What is the purpose and what are the goals? So a goal could be in next 2 years, I want to double my salary and I want to go 3 titles higher. Purpose could be I become the most learned individual in product management and I help the product management professionals like me to then evolve and do a better things for the grand set of things. That could be the purpose, because once you get the goals done, I think then what next comes. But if you had the purpose, that's different. You can continuously strive towards that. It's deeper, but I think product management's space is deep. Product managers sort of have to be deeper as well, right?
Well, I think that everybody, it's not just product managers, everybody should have purpose and goals in life. And I would agree with you. I don't think most people think about it. I think they would benefit greatly, even if they do it annually. Right now, it's the end of the year, right? It's end of 2024. It's a great time to do a reflection on your past year and just think long term. If you need to start somewhere, do goals for the next year, but think long term. What is your purpose in life? I like that idea a lot. So, Aruna, it's obviously apparent to me and all of our listeners, you've had quite a successful career. What do you think are maybe a couple traits or habits that you've developed over time that you might want to give some advice to other people to start that could help them in their career?
I think the curiosity, tenacity, and resilience are those things that was always there with me. And some people are really, there are certain things, everybody has it of some form. It may be that may be my natural skill set or natural traits. But some you have to build. Maybe perhaps I wasn't great in communication or public speaking or even writing, right? But these are the skill sets you build as you evolve. Maybe I was great at doing the day-to-day stuff, but I didn't think about how to think overarching stuff. Maybe I need to build that. So self-awareness becomes very, very important for you to go through this pattern to say, like, I'm really good at this. I'm not great at this. And that's also I've found it's really weird, like how a lot of people have not done that thinking. And I generally say you can always improve what you know. You cannot improve you don't know. So you got to surround yourself with mentors who will also be very honest with you, right? And I have had those before for that, to say that, tell me what I'm not doing. I could be. I just gave you an example. Early on, I didn't know how to write short. I didn't know how to, and my mentors will say, can you write what you just said in 5 bullet points? And I'll be like, I don't know. That's such a complex context. How can I do that in 5 bullet points? And I would almost get finicky about it. I would almost get upset about this. And then said, like, well, why 5 bullet points are needed is that person actually didn't even know should they spend time with you or not based on that 5 bullet points. So I needed to build that skill set with me to go on forward. I now needed to evangelize on the product. I came up with an idea. Nobody can know. Marketing hasn't been trained on that idea. Sales hasn't been trained on that idea. You are the person who actually know about the idea. Your investor just now funded you for that idea. You're the only suitable one to go do public speaking. Now you have never done a public speaking. Now how will you do that? So you recognize, are you good at it? Are you natural at it? So you will see a lot of people who are naturally great at it. This, Aruna, I will tell you, I was not natural public speaker at all. I got nervous. I would clam up. I would forget things that I needed to say. All of that would happen. Then I would sit in front of a computer and practice, really. And that was my only way of my salvation to get there. And there was a quote, is that when you go in front of it, and I always remember that. It's like, look at, like, even though there are 500 people in there, just focus on four. Focus on 4 people on each side of the room. And don't remember what you exactly had to say. Don't try to memorize it. Just know what you know and just tell a story. And I practiced that. And I felt like, oh, I could do this. And I did it again. And I could really do this. And then that public speaking became very natural to me, right? What I'm saying here is that there are skill sets that are really holistically yours. Yours could be public speaking. Yours could be writing, but yours may not be the framework. Then go learn the framework. Yours may not be, you're not naturally curious person. You're not very tenacious person. Then try being that. Push your envelope on that, right? So what I say to the future, to sum it all up, the future product managers are, focus on a continuous learning and self-awareness. That's very important. Develop your communication skills and resilience through deliberate practice on whatever you're not great at. And when somebody gives you a feedback, embrace them objectively and try to make that work. And surround yourself with those who do that as well. And I think that's the path to evolve.
I think what you're calling to mind, and I hope I'm saying it right. If I said it wrong, if I say it wrong, maybe you will correct me. You know Johari's window? You know the concept? Okay, it's what you know about yourself, what other people know about you, but you might not know about yourself, and then there's a whole lot of unknown unknowns, right? It's the known knowns.
That's right.
And I think what I'm hearing you say is develop really strong self-awareness, right? So that you can understand those qualities, and then have somebody who's going to be a true truth teller to you, who can tell you where your gaps are so that you can constantly be working on those. Yeah. I mean, I think that benefits everyone. In listening to you, I almost feel inspired to go fix some of my bad habits too. Well, Aruna, it was Lovely. Absolutely lovely talking to you.
I did want to say, we talked about a lot of serious stuff. I will say this is that one of the very key skill set, and I have not talked about it, is having fun. Is life is not all that serious. I use this as we're not culturing human genome right at this moment. So we're okay here, just take it easy. We can make a mistake. We'll fix it again, and let's have fun while we're doing it. Half of my meeting, like my one-on-ones, my leaders, when I talk to them, I'm ensure I talk about nothing 20% of my time at that time, meaning nothing about work. And we just talk about it, different things, and we have fun. And then the other thing about fun, and I'll give you this with an example, is I was just here in IQVIA, and I was it's a big business, like almost $25 million business. That was what was accountable. I was at that time, and everybody who was there were going through. They had left. I was only left with 2 product managers at that time. So, my leader says, like, you need to go hire 10 of them in the next 3 months. What a daunting challenge that is. How do you hire 10 people when you don't even know the industry? So I panicked for that moment. Then I told myself, why don't I have fun with this? Let me just go have fun. Let me think about this as a project of fun. And, and I was able to go to a recruiter. It's like, just like speed dating, how about like speed interview? Let's have that fun. And we were able to go through that process in a very small amount of time and recruited great product managers that are actually still with the company. And to me, like that mindset of having fun, because we're so serious people and we forget that. And like I said, I in these days, I make sure that everybody is doing that, because all leaders at the end of the day, they must lead with empathy, compassion, and kindness. That you start there and everything comes. And that's for the leaders to lead rest of it, because like I said, life is not about sticks and carrots.
That is well said, Aruna, and a really good reminder. I think sometimes you're right. We get so in the weeds of what we're working on and, driving outcomes and value. And we sometimes forget that at the end of the day, we're just people. At the end
Yes.
of the day, we're having a real life, and we have families, and we have friends, and we have pride and emotions, and it's a really good reminder to also honor the human part in all of us. So thank you
That's
for that.
right. And we, when you're in the middle of chaos, we forget that. But you got to embrace that chaos again, but by being kind, by being compassionate, by having the humility and leading it through. It can happen. But it's also going back to what you said, is that it also is a deliberate practice. That may not be you, but you need to understand, it's like, oh my God, I go to these meetings, I'm always so serious. Why so serious? So let it be. And the outcome that you get probably is a happier outcome by being somewhat fun as opposed to very serious.
Yeah. Well, Aruna, thank you for that advice. How can people follow you after this podcast has aired?
LinkedIn, I would consider LinkedIn is a really great resource. And reach out to me on LinkedIn. And if you want me to review your blogs and whatnot, send it through. I'll do that as well.
Oh, careful now, but you all heard it. Thank you so much, Aruna, for joining us. And thank you all for tuning into Product Side Stories. I hope today's insights inspire you and propel your product journey forward, maybe bring a little bit of fun back in your life. Remember, every challenge is a lesson waiting to be learned. Visit us at productside.com for more free resources, including webinars, templates, playbooks, and other product wisdom repackaged for you. I'm Rina Lexin, and until next time, keep innovating, keep leading, and keep creating stories worth sharing.
Thank you for having me, Rina.